Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, Necro Thursday, and it's time for the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. I'm here this week with Jeff. Jeff, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing okay. You might notice that my voice is just a little hoarse right now.
I did notice.
Yeah, so that means I've been practicing the set with Tombs. And yeah, so I've been singing a lot, grinding it out in the practice space. We got this date down in Baltimore. It's part of the Hell in the Harbor Festival at the end of May. And yeah, we're playing like the small stage there. It's the 27th of May. We're headlining. I'm not sure exactly what hour that's going to be, but hopefully we're not playing the same time Cannibal Corpse is playing. So that could be a problem. But yeah, if you guys are in the area, definitely come on down. So what's going on, man?
That's awesome. I'd like to point out I'm still currently not doing anything music related. Nothing, not much is going on. I'm back in Texas. Took a little road trip. Watched a few movies on my trip. You check out anything, Mike?
You know what? I haven't really had the opportunity to watch a whole lot the last week or so. Just, my dad was in the hospital. He's out now. And I've been doing a lot of traveling back and forth between New York and New Jersey and spending time with the family and, just catching up on stuff. So I've been reading Adam Neville's No One Gets Out Alive, which they made a film out of on Netflix. And but I'm reading the book now. And that's one of the few Neville books that I haven't read. And so far, it's awesome.
Do you know anything about the movie? Like a good word of mouth or anything?
I don't know much about it. I know that people online seem to like it, but maybe I'll watch it after I'm done with the book, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
I just watched something on Amazon Prime that my girlfriend told me about, but she had watched it while I was gone. She said you should check it out. It's called Horror in the High Desert. You heard about this?
That sounds familiar. I'm not exactly sure if I've seen it, though.
I don't think you have. I don't think anyone has. Like she told me about it, and I looked at Rotten Tomatoes, and there's no reviews for it as far as critic reviews. There were some user reviews. So I think this is like a super low budget found footage slash kind of like in the style of Lake Mungo and a mockumentary kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I'm quite fond of Lake Mungo, so maybe I'll check this out if it's similar to that.
Yeah, it's worth it. It wasn't great, but it's worth a watch. Like Lake Mungo, like you really got to pull off the performances or have believable performances to really suck you into something like that. And if you don't have that, like that style of filmmaking just fails. And I gotta say this, like it felt real. Like I turned to her at one point, I was like, this is a fake documentary, right? So it's got that going for it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's worth a watch if you have nothing better to do. Check it out. And also, I saw Cocaine Bear.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I don't know. I know it's supposed to be fun and not take it too seriously, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in seeing that. And there's all these copycat films that are coming out, like Meth Alligator.
Meth Alligator?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just not my kind of thing, man. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, no, I get you. It kind of like, when Snakes on a Plane came out, like it wasn't in on the joke that it became, an internet meme and all that stuff. And then they went back and shot more footage to kind of, look, we're in on the joke. This is what that whole movie felt like. Like, we know this is stupid and whatever, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, horror comedy is tough to pull off. And this just did not pull it off for me.
Yeah, it's a real slippery slope with that, man. I mean, last week, me and Mike did Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, which is technically, I guess it is a horror comedy, though when I first saw that when I was a kid, it wasn't funny to me. And I guess even now, when I look back on it, it's humor, but the humor, it's just like super dark. And I don't really, I mean, yeah, sure, there's some comedic things, but there's this dark like undertone throughout the whole film, which is just very unsettling,
I gotta rewatch that, and I gotta listen to that episode too. It's funny. I was listening to your Raw Meat episode, in the hotel room, and I fell asleep, and I woke up to the sound of my own voice because my my phone immediately went to the next part, and I wake up and I'm hearing myself talking. It was like having an out of body experience. Couple other things. I watched a movie called Repo Man from about 2011 or 12. You ever heard of this with Jude Law?
I know Repo Man,
yeah,
right? But I don't know Repo Men. What's that all about?
Repo Men. It's with Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker. Kind of a wacky premise. Movie owes a lot to movies like Brazil, 12 Monkeys, Old Boy. It's kind of derivative, but I gotta say I kind of enjoyed it. Basically, Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker play repossession men, except they repossess organs from people, therefore killing them when they take their property back.
Oh, that's kind of cool. All right.
Yeah, I think it has comic book origins. At least it certainly felt that way. It got some pretty bad reviews and kind of came and went without much fanfare, but I don't know. It was okay. Again, worth a watch. And strange how it's one of those things when I was watching it, I was like, I might have seen this before, but don't quite remember it.
Where did you watch it? Was it streaming anywhere? Where did you check it out?
My friend had it on Blu-ray. He's got this insane Blu-ray collection, and they're just looking for something to watch. And he's like, "Have you seen this?" I said, "I don't know." So yeah, we watched it. I'm sure it's available to rent on Amazon for like $1 or $2. Probably one of those things.
Yeah, I got what arrived yesterday was the Terror in the Isles Blu-ray, which I just ordered,
wow!
But I have not had a chance to review it lately. So I'll probably check that out over the weekend. I imagine it's something I'll put on and while I'm doing other things and get back into that.
That was I remember that VHS cover very well from when I was a child. That one scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, totally, man. It's something I saw a long time ago. I remember maybe a year ago trying to find it on VHS, or not VHS, on Blu-ray or even DVD, and it was out of print. But now I found it pretty easily, so it's around.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Well, let me know if it holds up at all. Yeah. I haven't seen that in forever.
So before we get going, I just want to shout everyone out. Of course, on Monday we have Horror Wolf 666. With our boy Brandon Legion. And Jeff, you were recently on the show, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I was. That's out now. Yes, Go and listen to that.
Yep. Tuesday, the premier extreme metal podcast. And of course, that's none other than Into the Necrosphere, brought to you by Jackie Smith. And like I keep saying this every week, but it's like it's true. I listen to really this one when it comes to metal. Like there's like the Heavy Hole podcast, which I listen to every now and then by Big Will, and that's a solid one. But Jackie's just like really the top of the food chain when it comes to extreme metal related podcasts. So that's really all I listen to. I get a lot of great info on bands, find out about new stuff, that kind of thing. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which is what I've been doing. What seems like I'm doing this podcast for like I don't know, like my whole life maybe. I don't know.
That's pretty much.
And that's still there. It still comes out every Wednesday, and you can check it out. And it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but there's always stuff on there that maybe you might find interesting. There's also a Patreon, which has a lot of other exclusive content on there. Thursday is Necro Thursday, and you're listening to the Necromaniacs podcast, which comes out on Necro Thursday. Friday, we have Break the Apocalypse, which is Scandato's brother, John Draper, does that show. And it's focused on current events, that sort of thing, with a lot of humor. And I know John personally. He's a great guy. Lives upstate New York now, so I don't see him that often. But I look forward to seeing him at some point in the next year. Really, really cool guy. Him and Mike used to own the Brooklyn Monster Factory comic book shop, the late great Brooklyn Monster Factory in Brooklyn, New York. And that's how I really got in with those guys. So yeah, that's a good show to check out on Friday. On Sunday, we have Soul Knox with our buddy Carl Hikara. And if you're into darkness and the esoteric and weird fiction, check out his show. Carl and I are starting. We just started a collaboration of a deep dive into the work of Carl Edward Wagner, a fairly obscure horror and weird fiction writer, dark fantasy writer. And we're alternating episodes. The first episode's out on Soul Knox, and the next one's coming out on Everything Went Black. So we're shifting back and forth, covering a short story by Wagner. And the subject of the first group of stories we're doing is the recently republished In a Lonely Place, which excellent collection. And that's our crew, man. That's our podcasting family, the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're going to talk about the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah. Oh, actually, before we do that, I just want to remind everybody that we have a voicemail number if you want to call in. We have a call-in number, and that's 908-913-0783. 908-913-0783. And we've been getting it's starting to pick up, Jeff. We got some calls.
Yeah, so, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, so a couple guys called in this week, and we just want to talk about their stuff real quickly. And so I'd like to thank the callers for this week. We have Braden from Vancouver. He enjoys the show, which we appreciate that, and he recommended the UK TV series Threads, or TV movie Threads. Have you seen that?
I've heard of it. I don't think it's from the 80s, right?
Yeah, it's old. Yeah, it's from the 80s.
Yeah. I think it was on a documentary I watched about found footage. I think that's how I heard of it. It's apparently very grim and depressing. So sounds right up our alley.
I have not seen it, Braden, and most of my life I've been scared to see that, to be honest with you. It looks like something that's like very intense, very heavy, but it's something that's been on my list to check out, and I think it would be a perfect candidate for this show. So let's put that on the list, man, for sure. He also mentioned Green Room, which Mike and I covered a few years ago. So if you want to go back in the stream, you'll find it like from a few years ago, the year that movie came out. Mike and I covered it, so that's already there. It's out there if you want to check it out. And he also had a follow-up question. With our years of touring, have we ever run into anything like what was presented in Green Room? Jeff, comments.
I'm trying to think. No. I remember talking about how kind of far-fetched that movie was, but, when you're just starting out and you're kind of doing the very DIY circuit, especially in, like, the late 80s or early 90s, something like that seemed entirely possible,
mm-hmm.
Or you was pre-internet, you didn't, you're just booking a tour. It's like, oh, we need to be here. We need to show on this date. I can totally see something like that happening, 20, 30 years ago, maybe not now. And I've certainly never had an experience where we were like, oh, we're in a neo-Nazi club. Because by the time ISIS was a band, Nazis in the whole underground music scene were pretty much gone. I don't know if that was your experience, though.
I have, for the most part, yes. However, some sketchy people have shown up to see our band play, and
for sure.
And the one particular show in Pittsburgh, I remember this group of like really intense-looking guys showed up, and they had shirts on that were part of a white supremacist record label, and I was like, that's interesting. It's kind of weird. They all had like Nazi tattoos and stuff. And
oh my God.
Yeah, so that was definitely kind of strange. And then actually, I'm not even going to mention this because that's I'm going to say something and it's going to reflect back, and people are going to get the wrong idea about stuff. So I'm not going to go into that part of it. But so anyway, yeah, that was the only time anything like that's ever happened. But I agree with Jeff that maybe back in the day in the early 90s, even throughout most of the 90s, something like that could have very well happened to a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, remember, I don't know if you remember, but there was like a zine called Book Your Own Fucking Life.
Oh, of course.
You remember that?
Okay. I've used it back in the early 90s. Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like you could totally like see like just a club like that putting an ad in there like I know yeah, that's something that was probably definitely possible, but never had anything like that. Although my friend's band had some people from Resistance Records come to their show once back in 96, yeah. So again, the 90s. So it's not that far removed from reality.
Yeah, what's interesting though about that is I remember back in 97, 98 when I was still living in Boston, I went to go see Death in June play at Man Ray, the club in Boston and Cambridge there.
Oh yeah.
I went there with a dude I played in a band with, and this guy Dave, who was one of my roommates at the time, and you remember Dave, Lefty.
Oh, I do. Yes.
Yeah. So we all went to the show, and there were dudes that you'd never seen anywhere before showing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was guys that clearly were they had the whole get up with the boots and braces and the flight jackets and everything, and there was like some Sieg hailing going on and Nazi salutes and all that sort of stuff at the show. So I mean, it was out there for sure, man. Like that's like a thing that happened. I don't even know anymore these days, like if that's something that happens. I mean, like straight up like white supremacists, I mean, they're in our government, so it's
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's mainstream now.
They wear suits now.
They wear suits
to the boots. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember you telling me about that Death in June, that story, like fucking 20 years ago at this point. you like, yeah. Well, Death in June certainly courted that controversy with their imagery and things like that. So. I could see how people can get the wrong idea that they were a Nazi band.
Actually, it was Death in June and Non, which was the Boyd.
Oh,
so Boyd Rice was involved too. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So that times two, basically.
Yeah. Also, thanks to Mike from Telford, PA, once again coming through. Thank you for the call. And Mike mentioned Midnight Video, which is something that someone else mentioned to me in I forgot what town that was in Pennsylvania. So that's cool. And also he credits us for preventing him from assaulting his coworkers, which that's always good, man. I'm glad we can touch people that way and help them,
Yeah, me too. I usually drive people to violence. So to hear that I helped stop it, I'm very happy with that.
I'd also like to thank Reed from Virginia for checking in with us. And Reed's a sound engineer, and he's an Everything Went Black listener. And he jumped on the Necro during the pandemic. And he became a listener around the time you joined the show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, man, keep the voicemails coming once again. 908-913-0782. And definitely hit us up with some recommendations and, things that you'd like to hear us cover on the show. And we reserve the right to veto all requests, however. But it's always good to know what people are thinking. And actually, one of the things Reed mentioned was he wanted to know if any of us had seen Knock at the Cabin. so here we go. Tonight's the right. He called it exactly the right time, and tonight's that's the episode that we're going to be doing. Brand new movie that came out in this past February, and based on the novel Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, who is a very, very accomplished, prolific horror writer. Have you read the book?
Yeah. I have not read the book. I will say that the title for the book is much better than the title for the movie.
150%. I remember, I'm trying to remember what film it was, but it was one of my Friday night forays out into the AMC movie theater near my house here. And I remember watching all these previews, and this trailer came up for this film, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Cabin at the end of the world." Someone made a film out of it. No mention of Paul Tremblay, and the wrong, completely lame title that they came up with for this movie. Knock at the Cabin. Yeah. What the fuck does that even mean? Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, it really kind of sounds like a studio decision. And I know maybe by coincidence or I'm just stupid, I keep calling this thing Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that throughout this podcast. I'm gonna call this thing Cabin in the Woods. My brain keeps going there. But yeah, kind of a generic horror-y title, Cabin at the End of the World is just so much I don't know. It's just more ambiguous. I like that title a lot better.
But knock at the cabin. Like that makes grammatically that doesn't make any sense to me. Knock at the cabin.
Yeah.
I would say knock on the door, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like maybe to avoid confusing it with Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Even though I have been doing that since I saw this movie, confusing the two.
So it really accomplished nothing by changing the title of the film, and it clearly, is. And also, what's up with not having Paul Tremblay's name in the trailer?
Yeah, he's not exactly Stephen King. He's not like a name that would, I guess, sell a movie like Stephen King's could. Nothing against him; he's great. But I just don't think he's reached that level yet where he's like a name that's going to sell, right?
Yeah, but, I feel like Tremblay is like enough people know him and enough people like this book. And he's definitely, obviously he's not the same stature as Stephen King, but I think that he's got a very well-known fan base. He's always putting books out. And I don't know, I thought that was an easy way to maybe get a little bit more recognition for the film, but whatever, it seems to be doing fine. So
yeah, I throw something in there based on the novel, from the novel by Paul Tremblay, something like that. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah. Obviously this film was directed by M. Night Shyamalan, who has kind of a dubious catalog in my opinion,
to say the least.
Yeah, it's 100 long ass minutes. This film.
Yes.
It's a long movie. And I know the trend is for films of this sort to be going more on the long form side of things. But those 100 minutes were fucking long, man.
Felt like 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh, and I saw this in the movie theater too, by the way.
Oh, okay. No, I watched it at home.
Yeah, I was in Groton, Connecticut for a week for my job. And I decided that was like a novel thing to do while I was up there instead of sitting in the hotel room by myself all night. So I went to go check this out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The cast. Actually, I thought this was like a very well acted film. Okay. That's just, I thought this was, the cast did a great job on this. So we got the great Dave Bautista as Leonard. And, I feel like Dave, kind of the high point of the movie, man, in a lot of ways. I think he's, for a guy who is an athlete, performer, pro wrestler type dude, I think that he's come an incredibly long way with his acting abilities. And,
yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Yeah. I think I started really giving him credit around when he was in Blade Runner 2049. I was like, this dude's like really acting. Like he's like showing subtlety and emotion and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. Likewise in this film, I think, he did a great job.
I'll have some thoughts about that when we finish the cast.
Okay. Jonathan Groff as Eric, Ben Aldridge as Andrew, Nikki Amuka Bird as Sabrina, Rupert Grint as Redmond. Now, Rupert is also in a great Apple Plus show called Servant.
Oh, also M. Night Shyamalan, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he has something to do with that show. He's a producer or something.
Okay. Abby Quinn as Adrian, Kristen Chui as Wen, sorry. And of course, M. Night Shyamalan appears as an infomercial host in this as well, so he can't keep himself out of his own movies. So.
No, he really can't. I think he's still trying to convince himself that he's Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah, okay. You mentioned Dave Bautista, and I've said it on this podcast. Basically, what you were saying, I think when we covered Army of the Dead, we were like, all the wrestlers that have become actors, Dave Bautista shows the most promise. Mm-hmm. This was like the first time I thought he might have been miscast or that maybe his shtick was, maybe it's the movie itself, but his shtick of like the gentle giant thing was kind of just getting on my nerves. You know, like,
Yeah.
the movie opens and go, you like grasshoppers? I like grasshoppers too. You know, it's like the all G shucks thing he's always doing. Rubbed me the wrong way in this movie a little bit. And that's not to say that I thought he was bad. He still shows a lot of range, a lot of emotion. I just thought, I don't know, maybe going a different way with the casting of Leonard would have lent some menace to it, or some more ambiguity, and maybe someone smaller and not covered in tattoos. I don't know. Like, this was the first time I thought, no, I don't think he's right for this. But you disagree, I take it.
I mean, I don't. Well, there's two points here. Number one, just his act. I think number one, his acting ability was great. I thought that he's in. There's like long shots of him, like emoting, basically.
Yeah.
You know, and with using his face and his dialogue. Like, there's long moments of him in the film where it's like, man, this dude is like really fucking acting. When I read the book, I didn't visualize like that type of character in the book. So to me, I was like, all right, this is like some license they're taking here, which is, not necessarily a bad thing, but different.
Sure.
And yeah, I agree with you on that point. And that's something I definitely wanted to talk about too, is that I don't think that, I mean, if you hadn't read the book, this is the only Leonard that you know, I guess. But he just doesn't, well, then again, actually, you know what? I have a really, really close friend of mine who is now in education administration, but he used to be a teacher, and he's covered in tattoos, and he's kind of a rough guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Steve from Neurosis is a school teacher. He teaches elementary school kids, or did. I don't know if he still does.
Yeah, so there's guys like that out there, but maybe not a gigantic guy like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just, like I said, the first time I thought, yeah, no, this doesn't quite work. But I agree with you. The acting ability is there. Everything else I've seen him in, he's been great. He was a bright spot in Army of the Dead for sure. I mean, that wasn't very good, but that certainly wasn't his fault. But maybe it's the movie itself that, like, when it's all said and done, when you think back, you're like, I mean, that just wasn't a whole lot there. And you read the book, so I'm kind of curious of like how you would compare this to the book.
Well, just to be straight up about it, it's definitely not my favorite of Tremblay's material that's out there. This particular book that he wrote, and just some of just like the premise of it, I thought was like a little underdeveloped in some ways.
Yeah,
and that's likewise for the film. I think that I didn't buy the mechanics of the storytelling so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I kept waiting for it to kick into gear, for something to happen, and it just never does. I mean, for a movie about the apocalypse, it's just very slight and not insightful at all.
And the sort of biblical mythology element, the Christianity element. It's funny that I kind of wish that they had gone more into that. Similar to this movie I just saw called The Rapture.
I haven't seen that.
It's an old movie from the 90s. David Duchovny's in it. And
oh, wait, maybe I did see that.
Yeah. And this other lady who I remember being like one of the not to come off like like a creep or anything, but like I remember being in the 90s, like she was like an older actress that I thought was like really, really sexy, man. But I can't remember her name, man. Mimi Rogers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember being like in my early 20s and just being like, oh my God, like this is like, anyway. But that movie is such an offbeat film. And it has to do with like the apocalypse and the rapture and who people getting saved and all that sort of stuff. And like, I think I mean that's a kind of the story. I feel like if you're going to talk about the end of the world and God, that that sort of thing should have been introduced more into the storyline. You know, and that's just like my commentary on just the base story itself, like the you know, the source material, you know, and the movie carried on with that stuff. And I was just kind of like, I don't know, I just wanted to hear more about it, like more like why them, why were they chosen? Was it, you know, random, I don't know, just like that. I just felt like I wanted more exposition, I guess, you know?
Yeah, and done in a clever way as well. But like, yeah, I agree with you. This is very interesting stuff. Like, okay, why is this happening? Why now? And why these families, this family, and why these people? That to me would be interesting. And that is just completely overlooked in this. And there are some flashbacks in this movie. Not a lot, but I really feel like every flashback scene could have been cut because it was completely unnecessary. I mean, it even flashes back to them getting to the cabin because the movie starts with Dave Bautista and Ren having a conversation about grasshoppers, and then they kind of give you a little backstory throughout the movie. And I don't know. I thought, well, you know, like maybe a few minutes at the beginning to show them, you know, driving to the cabin, setting that up. Maybe they're having a conversation that will give you some background on these characters. But the flashbacks they dole out throughout the movie like add absolutely nothing, and you could have cut 10 minutes out of this movie, and I think it would have flowed better, would have had a better, maybe more of like a theater or a play type of tone to it.
Yeah, that's how I envisioned it proceeding more like when I read the book, because it all is pretty much within the cabin, you know, so it has like very much that play like kind of vibe to it. And I would like to have seen the movie done that way. I mean, I didn't like the movie The Whale, but you know how that was based on a play, and it seems like a play, and I was kind of hoping that's what Shyamalan would have did with this film, like have it more just like this really tense drama of people in a room, you know?
Totally, yeah. And it takes you out of the room. And I mean, you said like a tense thing. I found this movie like had no tension at all, no suspense, no mystery to it at all. It's just sort of things happening. And I mean, I was like I watched this twice now. I think I dozed off twice during both times trying to watch this.
Well, actually, before we get too deep into it, let's talk about what the basic premise of the film is. That there's a couple, Eric and Andrew, and their adopted daughter Wen, and they go on a vacation in the woods in this cabin, and then three strangers, you know, Redmond, or four, Leonard, Sabrina, Adrienne, and Redmond show up with these homemade weapons, which they look kind of goofy to me, actually, the weapons themselves.
Yeah, I had a point to that too. Like, I totally agree.
So the whole premise is that all of this apocalyptic stuff is happening. You know, tidal waves, you know, planes falling out of the sky, like that sort of fires, like all this stuff is going on. And they claim that one of the three of them has to be sacrificed. They have to be murdered by one of them has to be given up as a sacrifice to some amorphous spirit out there in order to avoid the end of the world. And they're each going to ask them to do this task, and if no one does it, they themselves have to sacrifice one of them. One of the four has to die. Okay,
right.
And that soul sacrifice at the end will save the world from annihilation and apocalypse. So, I just
cool premise.
Yeah, kind of, but like, I don't know. Like, there's the sacrifice of one of the four. Like I did that. I don't know. There, like, even when I read the book, I was like, I don't know. This kind of doesn't really grab me. Like, I don't know. That to me, that just seemed like the idea of that just seemed a little half baked to me.
Yeah, totally. Well, like we said, why is this family chosen? Why does only one of them have to be sacrificed? And well, you know, why did these four strangers have to like die? Like, you know, it's just a lot of whys and not really any explanation towards that. I think there is one line in the movie that says, "I can see your family was chosen because of your deep love for each other." I was like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what family doesn't have? I mean, okay, fine. There are families who out there who hate each other, but I would say a majority of families care about each other, and you could just knock on any door and do this to anyone, but these people are specifically chosen. All these four, we should mention that these four horsemen didn't know each other. They were all having separate visions, and that brought them together, and those visions also brought them to this cabin. So this was not chosen at random.
And there was also like this kind of chat group, internet, QAnon cult element to this too, where they can. That's how they communicated and interacted with each other, was through some sort of like message board or like chat group or 4chan kind of thing. That could, I would love that to have been explored more. Just that conspiracy theory, paranoia kind of thing, like that was something that would have been welcome in this movie. It wasn't really in the novel so much, but if you're going to take a license and make this into like some kind of like, wacko, like QAnon religious cult thing, then do it,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, there's a little bit of it. Like, I think you're supposed to question whether or not these four people are legit or if they're completely crazy. But I feel like the movie shows its hand pretty early on that this is indeed real.
Yeah. And that's kind of a departure in the book too, because like in the book, pretty much right into the very end of the novel, you think it could go either way. Like you can make arguments for both it being a complete fabrication or it actually happening, and right. that's where the book really succeeds, I think.
Yeah, the movie definitely needed that because I don't think there's any question. Maybe like after the first horseman, like when his life is taken, I think it kind of shows that, oh wait, this is real. This is one trope the movie used, and I think M. Night Shyamalan uses it a lot. The TV in the cabin is the exposition and their window into what's going on in the outside world, which I don't know. Again, I would have gotten rid of that. It was just kind of like lazy and again drained the tension out of the movie.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, and also like they're like showing found footage of a tsunami. Where did they get that footage from?
I had the same exact thoughts. Where it's like,
okay, good.
Yeah, like when this guy's like running for his life, yet he's filming this gigantic tidal wave like coming down. That was the last thing on my mind. I would be thinking, or to live stream like my own death or something. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was just kind of goofy, but Shyamalan has done that to better success in a movie like Signs, where the first shot of the alien is like a found footage shot. They're watching the news, and some kid was recording a birthday, and you see an alien run across the screen. That was one of the best moments in Signs, and he I think maybe tries to recreate that a little here, and it's much less successful. I think. Again, like maybe a hint of what might be going on outside. Like again, like maybe this isn't happening, maybe it is, but almost off the bat, like okay, this is real. But the characters don't necessarily believe it. The characters kind of hold out doubt a lot longer than the audience does, which can be frustrating to the viewer.
Yeah, and this is similar in the book too, where a lot of it, they notice that the timestamp on the stuff that's being shown on the news is like in the past. There's an offset. It's not live, and they comment on how, well, you guys you're looking at your watches and all this stuff is timed out, so this could all be orchestrated. And that's like one of the things that they have in the movie and the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that that was cool, I thought. But the thing that bothers me about this whole, even just the whole plot in general for both the novel and the movie, is like, all right. You have a family structure. You got 3 people, okay? Mm-hmm. And these 4 strangers show up, and they're like, we're going to kill each one of us until you guys sacrifice one of yourselves and your family, right? I will never, ever, ever pick some random stranger over someone who's in my family ever.
Right.
I will watch you die in lieu of someone that I care about dying, or having to kill someone that I care about, to sacrifice someone for, like, something that may or may not even be happening. That's the big flaw in this plot, in my opinion.
That's a really good point. Yeah, they just waited it out and let them all die. You know what I mean? Like, I guess narratively that's not as exciting. But yeah, no, I totally get your point.
Yeah.
Which another, like, kind of mystery is to, like, I guess maybe you're supposed to think throughout the whole movie that maybe this isn't real, although I certainly didn't think that. We're talking about a gay couple with an adopted daughter, and one of them thinks this is a targeted attack.
Yeah.
Against them, which that was kind of interesting. They realized that one of these, I think the guy that's supposed to be Malice, the Harry Potter kid, the redhead.
Yeah.
From Medford, dude.
Well, they picked the right town. If there's going to be some, like, drunk, like, homophobic guy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, fucking Medford. Yeah, he like one of the dads recognizes him and as the guy who beat him up in a bar 13 years earlier. And I thought, oh, that's something. That's interesting. These two kind of know each other, but then it just ends up being a red herring.
Yeah.
It goes nowhere.
Yeah, and that really the key difference between the two men in the couple, one of them is definitely more angry, like more prone to violence, and the other one is like a little bit more nurturing and, like, willing to accept things, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of an interesting dynamic. I felt like the couple were a little kind of underwritten, but then again, so is everyone in the movie. Even though I really like I know he's British. He was in the Harry Potter movies, and he was a convincing, fucking Massachusetts townie. He's not in the movie long, but for the time he's there, he's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, I like that guy. He's in as I mentioned earlier, there's an Apple Plus show that actually Brandon from Horror Wolf turned me on to this. It's called Servant. And it's a Shyamalan. I didn't know this actually until you said it, but apparently Shyamalan did this film, and it's kind of a weird tale, actually. It's a cool story. It has to do with beliefs as well. It has to do with, like, delusion, and he plays a brother. He's not an antagonist in the film. He's more of, like, this kind of curmudgeon-y, brother character in it. So he does a great job though in that series.
Okay, we're checking out then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's a bright spot here too. I really like too that there's hesitation on I keep calling them the Four Horsemen. I hope that's not a spoiler. I think you can figure that out just from watching the trailer for this.
Yeah, definitely.
Although it seems to be, like, revealed in a way in the movie that you're supposed to be shocked. Although, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was just ahead of the movie, where it's like, yeah, it's pretty obvious what they are. But anyway, I liked that they weren't, so sure of themselves. I thought that was interesting. Like, they're all like, is this real? Like, they don't really know it's real until they're there and they're in it, and they're starting to believe more as it's happening. I think Dave Bautista's character is pretty sure, since he's clearly the leader. He's supposed to be guidance. But the other three are a little bit more hesitant. And I liked the different personalities. I especially kind of thought the annoying white girl, I have written down as, she's supposed to be nurture, and, like, that character too felt really authentic. I feel like, I knew a lot of people like her. Like, she's kind of like, she's nice, she's caring, she's kind of not really sure of what she's supposed to be doing in life, so she has her hands in a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like I knew her character almost immediately, like, oh, I like to feed people, and they were good characters, all of them. I just again, like, underwritten.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, there was just no tension in the movie.
No,
and like
none.
It would be in real life. This would be an incredibly tense situation.
Oh, absolutely, and maybe it's just I don't know, but like I never felt that kid was in danger for a second.
No.
From frame one, I was like, this kid's making it to the end. I guarantee that.
Yeah. Well, I think that you mentioned red herring, but for those of us who read the book, that's probably playing on our emotions, because one of the differences, and once again, spoiler alert, in the book, Wen gets killed accidentally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's like what happens in the book, and so the whole time you're like, oh my God, they're gonna kill this like cute little kid. Those are the thoughts I had when I watched the film for the first time I watched it in the theater.
Oh wow, God, that would actually give me something to look forward to. I could not stand her in this movie. I don't want to bag on a child actor, not her fault. But it's just very typical of like kids in movies to act like she's supposed to be 8 years old. She acts well older than 8. She's precocious and like smart, and in the other scenes she's like bratty and annoying. Again, I'm not blaming the actress. No one's quite the thespian at that age yet. I just found her character annoying from like minute one.
Yeah,
and like the whole time I'm thinking like, well, I know who I'd sacrifice in this situation.
Yeah, so she gets killed by accident though in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's a difference right there. And then, so the whole time I'm thinking she's going to get killed. I'm like, oh, is it going to be an accident? Is someone going to decide they're going to sacrifice her? I mean, but the fact that she lives created another situation with the two fathers, right?
Right.
And one of them is going to have to go or not, And if they don't sacrifice one of them, what's going to happen with the world? So in the book, you don't really know what happens, actually. You don't know if it's real or not. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, so it is ambiguous.
The book has a very ambiguous ending. In the movie, though, there's no ambiguity at all.
Oh, no, not at all. The ending kind of drove me crazy.
Yeah.
There was a plague. There was a tsunami. Hundreds and hundreds of planes fell out of sky. A lot of people died. One of the fathers is dead. And at the end, they're like, oh, gee, glad that's over with.
Yeah. Boy, we sure had a day.
Yeah, well, what a pickle that was. Let's get in the car and head on out of here, kiddo.
Yeah.
And then, Casey and the Sunshine Band is playing. I'm like, what in the fuck? This is such a colossally bad decision by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
This is a perfect way to, okay, the book, you said it's not quite his best work, but the ideas are there. Now just take what's good about that and expand on it. And it seems like M. Night Shyamalan just exercised his worst instincts in this movie, like that schmaltzy kind of cheesy Spielberg-y stuff he did in his earlier career. Like he brought that over. Yeah. I kind of like that M. Night Shyamalan's been leaning into like, okay, I'm not the next Spielberg. I kind of make, trash, but I make it well.
What was that other one he did that I didn't see his last film, but I think you wanted to talk about it? Old? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't, stunning masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't bad. I enjoyed watching it. It had a very classic sort of feel to it, and again, no twist or anything like that. I certainly liked it more than I liked this. And I know he did a found footage movie before that, I think, called The Visit.
I didn't even see that one either.
You would think, since I mentioned like some of his found footage stuff in Signs was one of the best scenes in the movie, so him doing like a more found footage thing should have been incredible. It wasn't. I'll say that.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, what a strange career M. Night Shyamalan has had, huh? Like he really was like Hollywood's guy for I think 3 movies, just 3 back-to-back hits, and then took a huge shit after that.
Yeah, like he's not one of my go-to directors. You know what I mean? And
No.
yeah, I mean, there's some of the stuff I like just fine. You know, mostly it's not like I'm not gonna go see a film by him because he did it. You know?
Yeah, no, certainly not. No. I'd be curious about it, but and he seems to have gotten somewhat back on track. I know he had a string of really, really bad movies for a while. He did the Last Airbender thing, and then he had that Lady in the Water, which I don't think I saw. He did that. I don't know if you ever saw The Happening with Mark Wahlberg, but that is just,
I missed that one.
it's worth seeing for how terrible it is, just to see how far that director fell. But he's kind of found his footing a little bit since then. And like I said, maybe like leaned into like, okay, like I'm this kind of director now. I'm not gonna be winning Oscars and shit. I wish he maybe have leaned into that a little bit more with this, or I don't know, like he just, I guess, wasn't the guy to bring this story to the screens. It just doesn't quite work for me.
I thought Split was pretty good.
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah,
good.
I enjoyed that one. Unbreakable I thought was kind of cool. It was interesting.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah. Sixth Sense was okay. That was like something I thought was pretty cool. It was kind of an iconic film at this point for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. You know what movie I really liked until the ending just blew it for me was The Village.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. I saw that in the theater.
Yeah.
I believe people booed at the end. I saw it.
I'm like, you had such a. I mean, I get it. They're trying to like throw in some curve, but that curve was like a little too much for me. I thought like it had a really interesting, very the plot was cool. Like it was a cool idea, but then the way that they resolved it, I thought was like ridiculous in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, one twist, there's 2 twists in that movie. One you see coming from a mile away, and the other just like had the audience completely groaning and rolling their eyes. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
You know what I liked a lot? Again, like same thing till the end was Signs. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree with Signs. That's and that became kind of my expectation with his movies was that they might start good and then they end bad.
Yeah, and missed opportunity to have Mel Gibson yelling at people. I kid. I like that movie a lot until the end, where it kind of reveals itself to be this overtly pro-faith movie, and that really annoyed me.
Yeah, actually, this film has a bit of a pro-faith vibe at the end, or like a pro. I read the whole Casey and the Sunshine Band thing on the radio, being like the dead father, saying, "Oh, it's okay, guys, I'm out here in heaven," or something like that.
Oh. Wow, I did not even I didn't think of that at all. That's interesting. I just thought it was like on the radio again, like a cute. Oh, I didn't even think of that. It doesn't make me hate it any less, but it actually probably makes me hate it even more.
Yeah, that's how I read it. Like it was some kind of like, heads up, guys, cheer up. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm out here in the afterlife enjoying myself.
Yeah, thousands of people are dead. It's kind of our fault. No worries though.
Yeah.
Sorry about all that.
Oops, my bad. My bad.
Whoopsies. Yeah, a moment like that too, between the 2 people who deeply love each other, one of them has to die. That should be a huge moment, a huge scene, set piece, something. It's kind of like a minute of the movie, and it cuts away to like the sound of a gunshot.
I mean, it might have even been cooler, like if the film. I mean, now we're going back to changing the novel too. If it was almost like this kind of like the 3 of them and one person, and someone has to die, in order to save the world. Like the fourth person could be like, they could rock some like Seventh Seal shit, you know what I mean? Where this dude shows up and like, all right, this is what we got here, guys. And then he convinces one of them to sacrifice someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to this corny ass thing where it's like, okay, well, we're going to kill each other until you guys decide to sacrifice one of you. And like I said, you're going to lose all the time. I'm never going to take some stranger over my own family, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless it's an annoying kid.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you're justified that way, you know?
Yeah. And one character sort of is still at the end, like holding out that this is all bullshit, even though like we've seen them see planes fall out of the sky, and it becomes really obvious that like okay, this is very real, and I don't know, like the moment between them it's just, I don't know, it just didn't quite it didn't have as much weight as it should have. Like, I don't know, maybe like a one shot, one take with the two of them kind of talk, like, kind of, so what do we do? Do we just, travel the scorched earth together? I don't know. Like, just nothing in this movie like landed as much as they think it did. Like, even like you said, the deaths of the horsemen, they're goofy.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, one guy falls and he has like two like of those makeshift, like they look like shovels or something in his head. Like, I didn't even know this was rated R until it started dropping like F-bombs. Like, it could have been, to me, it felt very PG-13.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't realize what the rating was on it either.
Yeah. I mean, maybe in different hands, this could have been something, but as it is, be hard to recommend this. If you're going to give it a final grade, what would you give it?
I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I didn't like it particularly. But then again, I wasn't wild about the book either. Like, the book was cool, but it's not like my favorite of Tremblay's work.
Sure.
And, but I can imagine people enjoying this film, so that's why I'm not going to completely lacerate it,
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not awful, but I'm going to go 2.5, just because 3 is my lowest for a recommendation, and I just, I can't imagine myself telling anyone you should see this.
Yeah, like the 3 for me is like, I didn't like it, but for you, this might be a good movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
yeah.
Like, it's like I do that with people sometimes. Like, it's like, well, I didn't like it, but you might like it,
Yeah. My girlfriend certainly liked it more than I did.
Yeah.
She also pointed out, actually, I don't even know if this is worth mentioning, 7 knocks at the cabin door. Do you think there's any sort of biblical significance to that?
7 knocks at the cabin. Well,
yeah,
7...
when they knock. They knock 7 times.
Was that counted out in the movie? Was that clear that it was 7 knocks?
No, she counted it. She noticed it.
Huh.
If you're listening and and you have an idea if that's significant, let us know.
Yeah, someone call in and let us know about that.
I missed it completely.
Wow, I don't know. Like, I mean, the number, I mean, as far as like, just like occult stuff, I mean, all these, the first, the 7 is I think the Tree of Life or whatever has like 7. Let's say this is, I'm going to say that it doesn't have any connection to it. But how there's that symbol that you see that has like the higher, like, it's like these 7, it's like a 7-pointed star. And it's like, this is like the connection between the lower and the upper world and stuff like that. I don't know if that has anything to do with the 7 knocks, though, honestly.
Okay. Also pointed out that there's a flash of light during the first 4 horsemen sacrifice. There's a figure in that light, which is referenced later in the movie, but I didn't catch it while watching it. There's like, there's someone in there. Like, That's when the dad, I think Eric, says, "I saw something in the light."
Interesting.
I guess it is actually was something there because she caught that.
Jesus Christ was in there.
Maybe it was that. You know what? If M. Night Shyamalan was really clever, that would have been his cameo.
White guy, beard, long hair, swimmer's build, swimmer's physique.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, like you know, like you said, M. Night Shyamalan. It's not going to get me to the theater, but you know, his name. I'll watch it. I think he's got a great one left in him. I know he does. He just hasn't quite made it yet.
I don't know about that, but
I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you got it, man. That's Knock at the Cabin. And
yeah, not Cabin in the Woods. Let us know what you think. I'm curious to what other people think about this one, because from what I'm seeing, it seems like people really liked it, and you and I just, didn't quite care for it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and keep in touch, man. Give us a shout, and we'll talk and make some recommendations. And like I said, we may or may not follow your direction, but we'll consider everything that's presented to us on the voicemail.
Absolutely.
Hey, hey, hey.